This is the news on NTA International. I am Stella Inamiti, and my sign language interpreter is Shagun Ajayi. Let's begin with the headlines. Senate holds emergency session, maintains adoption of electronic and manual transmission for elections. Nigeria's Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kyari, emerges new chairman of 49th Governing Council of International Fund for Agricultural Development. Plus, United Nations wants Ethiopia's warring parties to urgently de-escalate tensions in Tigray, cites grave risks to civilians. Thanks for joining us. The federal government says about 1.5 million Nigerians have benefited free reading glasses under the Effective Spectacle Coverage Initiative Nigeria, otherwise called Jigibola 2.0, in the first year of implementation. The Minister of State for Health and Social Welfare, Isiaq Salako, stated this in the State House at Meet the Press, the periodic briefing organized by the presidential media team. The minister said the initiative, implemented through the National Eye, Ear and Sensory Functions Program of the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, in collaboration with the Clinton Health Access Initiative, was part of the presidential plan to deliver 5 million free pairs of eyeglasses to Nigerians who need them. He said within 12 months, the program had also screened over 1.5 million Nigerians aged 40 and above for presbyopia, farsightedness across 16 states, describing the rollout as one of the largest vision care distribution efforts on the African continent. Salako added that the 16 states currently implementing the presidential initiative are Bayelsa, Delta, Ekiti, FCT, Gombe, Imo, Kaduna, Kano, Katsina, Lagos, Plateau, Ogun, Kwara, Benue, Sokoto, and Jigawa.
Forward in 2026, Jigibola 2.0 is expected to expand to additional 8 states and deliver 1 million reading glasses in those states. We're establishing 4 additional vision centers in 4 states of Edo, Enugu, Nasarawa, and Sokoto states. Like I said, we are going to provide this year, by the grace of God, 25,000 free cataract surgeries through the Renew Hope Health Connect that is going to be funded through appropriation. We're integrating PEC services into routine primary health care delivery across our states. We're going to deepen community partnerships to drive awareness and uptake.
Partners on the project say they remain committed to the cause of saving the sight of millions of Nigerians who are having correctable eye challenges.
Leading the world in this model, demonstrating how a simple, affordable health intervention can unlock productivity and income for all, strengthening health systems, improving lives at a national scale.
But we must not stop here. We want to see its reach and impact continue to scale. Our goal is clear: 75 million Nigerians who need it with sustainable access to eye care services. And this is achievable with an all-of-government, multi-sectoral approach.
Iran's top security chief has met Oman's ruler in Muscat as indirect U.S.-Iran talks resumed quietly, signaling cautious diplomatic movement after months of tension. Adobe Obiechina has the details.
Larijani discussed negotiation prospects with Sultan Hitham, while also meeting Oman's foreign minister, who broke the indirect talks. Sides stressed dialogue, balance and return to diplomacy as Washington and Tehran test each other's seriousness. Iran warned of Israelis' interference ahead of Netanyahu's Washington's visit, insisting talks remain limited to nuclear fire. Tehran rejects Merzai or regional issues despite U.S. pressure, sanctions and military deployment following last year's conflict. Despite fresh sanctions and sharp rhetoric, Iran says diplomacy best protects national interests after the June war experience. With Oman mediating and Qatar nestled like regional itinerary, cautious engagement continues even as threat lingers and regional actors seek leverage globally. Meanwhile, China's foreign ministry says it has logged solid representation with countries that have criticized Hong Kong's sentencing of pro-democracy media mongo Jimmy Lai, saying they were using the case to maliciously smear Hong Kong. The foreign ministry spokesman adds that Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Takashi's remark about being open to conversation with China needed to be reflected with sincere desire for dialogue through concrete actions. The European Union said it deployed 78-year-old Lai's sentences and called for his immediate and unconditional release, while Britain vowed to rapidly engage further on his case. Adobe Obiechina, NTA News.
The UN Human Rights Chief has warned Ethiopia's warring parties to urgently de-escalate the tensions in Tigray, citing renewed clashes and grave risks to civilians. Volker Turk said political dialogue is essential to prevent a slide back into full-scale conflict and deeper humanitarian and human rights catastrophe for the region's fragile future. Adobe Obiechina again brings us details of this and more.
Recent fighting between Ethiopian forces and Tigray units underscores fears of war after a conflict that killed hundreds of thousands. The UN cited drone strikes, artillery use, arrests and displacements, urging confidence-building measures and investigation into abuses by all sides.
Recent fighting between the Ethiopian army and regional forces has highlighted the risk of a deepening human rights crisis in the north of the country. The situation remains highly volatile, and we fear that it will deteriorate, worsening the region's already precarious human rights and humanitarian situation.
Turk warned without immediate dialogue, Tigray risks spiraling into violence, worsening displacement and suffering again. In a separate but related development, UN aid reached Syria's Kurdish town of Kobani as ceasefire extensions ease access for humanitarian convoys. The delivery followed days of shortages and displacement caused by advancing government forces after Damascus opened corridors, allowing coordinated assistance amid fragile claim between Syrian troops and Kurdish authorities across the conflict-hit northern region. Residents reported acute shortages as thousands fled fighting, while UN agencies coordinating deliveries with Syrian authorities to reach besieged communities. Syrian military announced humanitarian corridors to Kobani and Hashekin, facilitating aid after Kurdish forces seized territory under extended ceasefire agreements. UN officials stress continued access is vital as displacement, insecurity and needs remain severe regionally. Adobe Obiechina, NTA News.
Meanwhile, Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, is in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, to lead the country's delegation to the 48th Ordinary Session of the African Union Executive Council. The two-day meeting starts Wednesday and will be followed by the 39th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government on February 14th and 15th. Ambassador Tuga will focus on key continental priorities, including peace and security, democratic governance and sustainable development. On the sidelines, bilateral meetings will hold with African and non-African countries to strengthen Nigeria's diplomatic relations. A statement by the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Kimiebi Ebienfa, says the ministry will provide updates on key outcomes. In a significant development for global agricultural policy, Nigeria's Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kyari, has been elected as the new chairman of the 49th Governing Council of the International Fund for Agricultural Development. The announcement came during the council session where the minister expressed his gratitude for the honor and pledged to lead discussions on key issues facing rural development worldwide.
I would like to also extend my personal gratitude to Mr. President Lario and his staff for organizing this session and for providing us the opportunity to focus on the future of IFAD in its many aspects, which will be explored under the overarching theme of From Farm to Market, investing in young entrepreneurs.
From farm to market, investing in young entrepreneurs is the theme of the 49th annual meeting. The session aims to explore strategies for supporting rural youth in agricultural innovation and market access. With Nigeria's December submission deadline to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in view, ministries, departments and agencies attending the second BTR and fourth National Communication Data Collection and Review engagement in Lagos are prioritizing standardized data collection, quality control and interagency collaboration to ensure timely and accurate reporting. Charles Alpha reports.
Data gaps, reporting templates and quality assurance processes took center stage as ministries, departments and agencies advanced discussions on Nigeria's second biennial transparency report and fourth national communication in Lagos. Ramlowat, a climate expert from Mauritius, believes that transparency under the Paris Agreement is not optional, but a binding obligation that depends largely on credible, verifiable national data.
To source national data, you need to have an appropriate system. So the system is where we are focusing to make it work. If the system works, the gaps will be filled.
In terms of seeing whether we actually did this data collection and meeting the standard required under the ETF, we engage an independent, maybe consultant to do that and give us a report.
As part of efforts to consolidate outcomes from the training, participants assessed the use of templates provided for activity data collection and tracking Nigeria's progress under Articles 4, 7, 9, 10, and 11 of the Paris Agreement. They reviewed existing data sets, identified gaps, and explored practical approaches for generating missing data required to track mitigation, adaptation, finance, technology development, and capacity building actions.
We have to have data for decision making and all other things that can take us from where we are, that is tier 1 to tier 2.
We cannot say there is no data in Nigeria, but it's the way of harmonizing it.
It is also glad to be part of this process, and we're willing to work with NCCC to give them our data to put to use.
The confidence here is that with sustained coordination and technical support, Nigeria will meet its December reporting deadline and strengthen its climate transparency framework. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
President Bola Tinubu has appointed Magaji Tao Aliyu as the Managing Director of the Sheda Science and Technology Complex, Abuja. President Tinubu also appointed Engineer Adesayo Olusegun Michael as the Managing Director, CEO of the Board of Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency, NEMSA. Other board members of NEMSA appointed by the President include Engineer Aliyu Abdulaziz, Executive Director, Technical, Ikechi Clara Musu, Chairman, Southeast, Zubair Abdurrauf Idris, Member, Igba Elizabeth, Member, North Central, Sani Alaji Shehu, Member, Northeast, Adeyemi Adetunji, Member, Southwest, Engineer Emmanuel Eneji Nkpe, Member, South-South, and Engineer Charles Ogbonna Asogwa, Southeast. A statement by the Special Advisor on Information and Strategy to the President indicates that the President nominated Amina Gamawa, representing Bauchi, and Abdullahi Mukhtar, representing Kaduna, as commissioners to the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. The president has sent the 2 nominees to the Senate for confirmation. Professor Sheikh Abdullahi Usman has announced his resignation from office as chairman and chief executive officer of the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, effective Monday, 9th February 2026. Professor Usman states unequivocally that the decision is taken entirely for personal reasons, in line with the provisions of the NACON Act Section 3, subsection 6 of the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, Establishment Act 2006. Professor Usman said he has submitted his formal resignation in writing to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He thanked the president for the profound trust and honor of appointing him to serve the nation and the Muslim Ummah in this capacity. You're watching the news on NTA International. It's time for a quick break. Do stay tuned. Thanks for staying with us. Senate has held an emergency plenary sitting and made slight adjustments to the wordings in the votes and proceedings of its plenary sitting last week, Wednesday, 4th February, with regards to its resolutions on the provisions of Section 60 sub 3 in the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports that the amendment further clarified its adoption of both electronic and manual transmission of election results.
The emergency plenary of the Senate is to further make clear its resolution on Section 60 sub 3, which makes provision for the mode of transmission of election results. The issue is captured in the votes and proceedings of Wednesday, 4th February, and as the page-by-page adoption progressed, the Chief Whip, Senator Mohammed Tahir Mungunu, moved for rescission and amendments of the clause, which the Senate did and adopted the motion.
As a result of the controversy generated, whether to use the word transfer or transmission, the controversy that it was generated, in order to clear that controversy, if the electronic transmission of the result fails as a result of communication failure and it becomes impossible to transmit the result contained in Form EC8A, the Form EC8A shall, in such a case, be the primary source of coalition.
The proposal that he made in the last plenary, which was taken, I therefore second the motion.
If the electronic transmission of the result fails, if it fails as a result of communication failure, in other words, maybe network or otherwise, and it becomes impossible to transmit the result electronically in Form EC8A, signed and stamped by the presiding officer, and or countersigned by the candidates or polling agents where available at the polling units, the Form EC8A shall in such a case be the primary source of collation and declaration of results. Those in support of the motion as enunciated by Senator Mungunu and seconded by Senator Bamoro say aye. And those again say nay. The ayes have it.
But Senator Baribe moved a counter-motion calling for division so that each senator could vote individually on the clause. However, when granted the leave to proceed, he changed his mind and withdrew the motion.
Mr. President, I claim a division. In respect of? We need to vote individually now. Put it to vote! This is the beauty of democracy. Therefore, Senator Baribe has proposed that we should go ahead and vote. And for me, I think we should do so that everybody can answer his father's name. Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to withdraw my motion.
The conference committee set up will therefore proceed to harmonization with the House of Representatives. Other features at plenary were 2 motions, one of which calls for rescue of those abducted during Waro attack in Kwara State.
Call on the federal government to redesign and comprehensively clear the Kanji Forest Reserve of criminal elements and consider the strategic establishment of security formations.
Meanwhile, Senate Committee on Special Duties has engaged agencies under its purview on their 2026 budget, among them the National Emergency Management Agency.
On this side of the aisle, we assure you, like my colleague said, we'll try our best to ensure that you receive the necessary support and funding.
The committee promised improved funding for enhanced delivery. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
The National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, and National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, are solidifying their symbiotic relationship to foster the nation's digital literacy and inclusion agenda. Heads of the two parastatals met to discuss the impact and reach of the Digital Literacy for All initiative, DL for All, of which the core members are at its core. Chidinma Ndubisi reports.
Nigeria's target is to have 95% of its citizens gain basic knowledge in the use of digital devices and software, information and data literacy, content creation, digital marketing, online safety measures, and problem solving on smart devices by 2030. To achieve this, a program, DL for All, Digital Literacy for All, was initiated, and core members are being recruited as champions that will be equipped with digital skills and then transfer that knowledge to communities where they serve, especially those in hard-to-reach areas. So far, 13,100 core members have been trained as champions, and they are impacting lives.
They have trained more than 500,000 Nigerians. So the impact basically is on the numbers of people with the basic digital literacy. But the end goal is how can those 500,000 Nigerians be able to put their products online, to expand their market reach, to protect themselves from hackers.
From one lesson to another, I had no test skill, but now I'm a digital analyst.
80 core members are required from each stream, and we have 6 streams in a year. If NIDA wants more than 80, we have the core members available.
The 8 laptops and 3.5 million naira handed over to the core members by NITDA is to aid their digital inclusion role. In Abuja, Chimdima Ndubisi, NTA News.
President Bola Tinubu congratulates players of Nigerian descent who led the Seattle Seahawks to victory in Super Bowl 60 at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, California on Sunday. The Seattle Seahawks routed the New England Patriots 29-13 to claim their second Lombardi Trophy. Players of Nigerian descent on the team's lineup who helped achieve this victory include Jalen Oluwaseun Milro, quarterback Nick Imanwori, a defensive standout, Uchenna Nwusu, a veteran linebacker, Boye Mai, a linebacker, and Oluwatimi, an irrepressible offensive lineman. The president, in a statement by his special advisor on information and strategy, Bayo Nanuga, also congratulates Michael Onwenu, who played for the other side, the New England Patriots, and is regarded as one of the most dominant offensive linemen. President Tinubu commends all the players for the pride and honor that they have brought to their country of descent, especially Emanwori, Nwosu, and Mai, who raised Nigerian flag after winning the Super Bowl with the Seahawks. The president states that the players and their accomplishments affirm Nigeria's global reputation for excellence and talent. The Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, has released data that shows the 2026 rainy season will commence early in most parts of the country. The predictions also indicate that temperatures will rise above normal in the country. Musa Babaliu tells us more.
The hall is filled with scientists, farmers, environmentalists, and disaster managers. They have gathered to hear the 2026 seasonal climate prediction compiled by the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMED. The Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, unveiled the document containing the predictions. The rainy season is expected to begin early, starting around February 23rd in coastal states and from June onward in northern regions and other parts of north-central states. The wet season will end in October in northern states, including parts of Sokoto, Katsina, Jigawa, and Yobe State. It will continue until December in south-south region, as well as parts of the southeast and southwest.
During the season of March to May, severe dry spells exceeding 15 days are likely in parts of Oyo and Ogun states, while moderate dry spells are expected over Ekiti, Kogi, Osun, Ondo, Ogun, Edo, Ebonyi, Abia, Cross Rivers, and Delta states.
The weather agency also issued a temperature forecast indicating that daytime high could reach 36 degrees Celsius across the country, with temperatures climbing as high as 42 degrees Celsius in March 2026.
We have recently set up a team of experts charged with the responsibility of ensuring that the agency is at the forefront of integrating and operationalizing artificial intelligence in our forecasting responsibilities.
Continued investment in modern observation and forecasting systems, capacity building, and effective communication will ensure that climate information is not only produced, but also translated into timely and coordinated action where it matters the most.
The occasion also marks the 140th anniversary of NIMED's establishment in Nigeria from 1886 to 2026. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
And this is where we end the news at this time. I am Stella Inamiti, and our sign language interpreter has been Shagun Ajayi. Thanks for your time.